Did you know that there were no false messiahs that appeared before Jesus was born? According to Flavius Josephus, no false messiahs before Jesus. But when Jesus was born, there was a general expectation that he would come at that time. Hi, I'm Grant Jeffrey, and I want to introduce you to Bible Prophecy Revealed. The fact of the matter is, there were no false prophets claiming to be the Messiah before Jesus, because until there is the genuine, there can't be the counterfeit. Why did the disciples go out to see John the Baptist and ask the question, together with the religious authorities, are you Elijah? Are you that prophet? The question about Elijah is because Malachi had clearly taught that Elijah the prophet would appear before the great and terrible day of the Lord. He would announce the coming of Messiah. The second question, art thou that prophet, was a reference to the prophecy found in Deuteronomy 18, where Moses had said that God would raise up a prophet like unto him. And the question was, are you the Messiah, the prophet like unto Moses? Now, John the Baptist answered no to both questions. But why did they ask the question? Because they knew it was the time. Where did they get that impression? Where did the wise men, when they approached King Herod and asked the question, where is he that is born King of the Jews? King Herod immediately asked his scribes, and they said, Bethlehem. Why were they not astonished at the question? Because this was the time in which the Messiah was expected. I have commentaries written by Jewish rabbis in my library in which they say, even written in the last 25 years, that the Messiah was expected in the first 25 years of that first century of this era. Why? Because Daniel the prophet had said in his prophecy of the 70 weeks that there would be a period of 69 weeks of years, 483 biblical years, which actually worked out from the beginning of the vision, which was 444 BC, until 32 AD, when Jesus the Messiah was cut off to the day. So, since a rabbi had to be 30 years old before he could begin to teach, logically, Messiah had to be born very close to when Jesus was born. That's why there was the expectation for the first time. I'm asking you to join me in the study of prophecy. The subject we're going to deal with today is the signs of Christ's first coming. One of the most astonishing aspects of Bible prophecy, and that which makes it so effective in teaching others that the Bible truly is the inspired supernatural Word of God, are the specific set of prophecies made in the Old Testament about the coming of Jesus of Nazareth, the Messiah. Every one of these prophecies was made over 5 centuries before Jesus was born. They are of such specific nature that it is impossible that Jesus fulfilled them by chance. Now, there's an interesting part of mathematics called the laws of probability. For example, let's assume because Jacob had 12 sons, and it was predicted that Jesus, the Messiah, would come out of Judah, one of the 12, that there was one chance in 12 that Jesus would have come from that tribe of the 12 tribes of Israel, as opposed from Levi, Dan, Naphtali, or one of the others. One chance in 12 is not that impressive. But the prophets went on and also predicted the very village that Jesus would be born in. Within the tribal allotment of land in ancient Israel for Judah, there was a tiny village among thousands, which was called Bethlehem. And in the prophet Micah, this is made 500 years before Jesus was born, he says, But now Bethlehem Ephratah, though thou be little among the thousands of Judea, yet out of thee shall he come unto me that is to be the ruler of Israel, whose going forth have been of old from everlasting. Now here the prophet is clearly talking about the Messiah. King David was born in the very same village. Bethlehem is called the city of David. Now here Jesus is born out of thousands, but let's say it's one chance in 200 that the prophet could have guessed the little village of Bethlehem. But he's done two things. He's predicted that he would come from the tribe of Judah, one chance in 12. and that he would come from the tribe of Bethlehem, and we'll assign it a odds of 1 chance in 200. Now, the chance that one life would by accident, by chance, fulfill both those prophecies is not just 1 chance in 12 or 1 chance in 200, but it's 1 chance in 12 times 200 or 2400. You can see that when we have a series of prophecies that are sequentially linked to one life, the chances of them being fulfilled by chance alone become very, very high against it happening at all. That's the first prophecy I want to look at. The second is that this Messiah would be preceded by a messenger. In Isaiah chapter 40, verse 3, we find these following words from the prophet Isaiah, 700 years before Jesus. The voice of him that cries in the wilderness, prepare ye the way of the Lord, make straight in the desert a highway for our God. Of all the great leaders, religious, political, military, how many in history have been preceded by a messenger? I'm a bit of a student of history and I can't think of one. But I wanted to be really conservative in these odds, so I said, let's assume it's 1 chance in 20. The third prophecy we'll look at, that he would come into Jerusalem riding on a colt. Here's a very specific and very unusual prophecy. It was fulfilled on Palm Sunday. Remember that while the multitude rejected Jesus eventually at the cross, on that day the multitude of his followers and disciples acclaimed him as the Son of David. And it was the religious leaders who said, tell your disciples to shut up. And Jesus said,
if I tell them to be quiet, then the very stones of this city would cry out, Hosanna, blessed is he who comes in the name of the Lord.
When Jesus approached the eastern gate, he knew he was fulfilling the very important prophecy of Zechariah 9:9. He was claiming to Israel, I am the promised Messiah. I gave that 1 chance in 50, but obviously I'm being conservative. Then it was prophesied in Psalm 41:9 that Jesus, the most sinless of men, would be betrayed by a friend. We know the tragic history. When Judas Iscariot, the disciple of Jesus, the treasurer of the group, well trusted, took a 30 pieces of silver bribe from the religious leadership, betrayed Jesus to his death. What are the chances that a religious leader of Jesus' magnitude would be betrayed by a friend? Well, it's not impossible, but I said 1 chance in 200. I still am being conservative. The next unusual prophecy was made 1,000 years before Jesus the Messiah was even born. It was predicted that his hands and feet would be pierced in Psalm 22, verse 16. Now think about this. The horrible Roman crucifixion execution technique had not even been invented 1,000 years before Christ. It was not invented until about 6 centuries before Christ. So how in the world is the prophet in the book of Psalms predicting that his hands and his feet would be pierced? The exact description of the unique method of execution developed by the Romans. I said 1 chance in 100, but again, it's obviously conservative. And remember, each one of these predictions, each one of these probabilities is multiplied one upon another. It was also predicted by the prophet Isaiah in the famous suffering servant passage that the Messiah, when he came, would be wounded, that he would be whipped.
Behold the man!
This was fulfilled tragically in the life of Jesus, when they didn't just crucify him, but they almost killed him with a terrible whipping torture of the Romans. I said 1 chance in 25 because the Romans were incredibly brutal to all of their prisoners, especially public political prisoners like Jesus.